Welcome. It's a little after 10 o'clock. We've got some folks that are actually kind of signing in now. Looks like we have about 35 or so that are already here. It's right at 10 o'clock. So just wanted to initially get things started. I typed something in the chat just to see if folks were around, and I think that some of you are already kind of chiming in on that. So you know, this is a different situation we're in this year, of course. So we see a lot of the names of the people there, but some of us might not remember which community we're at. So I just thought it'd be nice to get things started and kind of showcase that and just remind everybody where everybody is from. So Chuck, B-V-I-L-L-E. Okay, don't know where that is, but I'm guessing it's Bartlesville. Well, I'm coming to you from an undisclosed location in a deep, dark bunker that I'm not going to tell you where it's at. I will say this, though, it's a little different this year, but we are here to celebrate your successes. And you usually see me in a suit, but this go around, I was looking for a way to wear my white, cool forestry shirt, and I finally found the reason to do it. And this is the first time I've worn this shirt. So anyway, it's a special occasion here, but good morning, welcome. Thank you for taking some time with us this year. And as we do every year, we are here to celebrate in your successes and all the accomplishments that you've done during the past year. And this year has been really challenging, to say the least. I will say this, some of the videos that we're going to be showing, and thank you all for those that sent them, they're going to be at different levels. So you may have to play with the volume control on your computer so you can hear some of those. So just be aware of that as we showcase those videos, that you may have to turn them up or down a little bit as we do that. You will see just the names of people off to the side. If you're in full presentation mode, you should just see the side and maybe the person talking. There's a lot of different views that you can look at up in the upper right-hand corner and kind of take a look at how you want to view it and everything. So just do whatever is comfortable with you. So if you go in and type chat, and that's how we're gonna, and I encourage you to talk, because again, this is about you all. This is where we learn from each other. So use that chat as much as you want. We are gonna be recording this, so I might not be able to see what you say about me when you're saying it, but I'll come back and check it later. So anyway, and it's probably all well-deserved. Riley Coy will also be monitoring that chat for any kind of questions that we have with the speakers and everything. And so hopefully if we have some time with that, we will ask some of those speakers some direct questions. And we've really got a cool program for you. Each year, we always have a theme for Arbor Week. And, you know, if we have a theme this year, I think just surviving should have been it. You know, God, we had a tremendous ice storm throughout much of Oklahoma early. And then we had the Snowmageddon and Freezemageddon. And so the trees and everything had just taken. It seems like we last met about this time last year, and there was something else that was going on. And I can't quite remember, can't put my finger on it, but there was really some other things going on, and it's great. Hopefully everybody survived all that, and we're just ready to move on. I mentioned we got great speakers, Gretchen Riley from South Oklahoma, or the great state for Texas of Texas A&M Forest Service. She's going to be talking to us about healthy trees, healthy lives a little bit. And then we have Joe Lehman with the Virginia Department of Forestry. He's going to be talking with us about, you know, helping to launch community wood utilization programs and everything. So we're really excited to be here. We're excited that you're here. We're ready to move on. And this is something that we can't do without all the support that we have. I really want to thank Steve Grantham and Up With Trees, because they are the ones that are really making this possible. They're the ones, you know, I'm the guy that doesn't know if it's a pound sign or a hashtag, and they have really taken it upon themselves and really helped us out with that. You don't want me doing the controls or anything. So thank you, Steve, for your help and all your staff in making this a reality. And so that said, this is going to flow a little bit differently. What's going to happen is I'll turn it over to Lee Martin. She's the current chair of the Community Forestry Council. She'll kind of say some words, then she'll lead into some of the videos that you all sent to us. And again, we want to hear from the things that, why it's such a great thing from Be a Tree City, a tree campus, or a tree line utility. And we're going to be hearing from that from you. And then we'll get into the program, and that's where Steve Grantham with Up with Trees will take it over. So with that, please welcome Lee Martin, the current chair of the Urban and Community Forestry Council. Lee.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning. My name is Lee Martin, and as Mark said, I'm the current chair of the Oklahoma Community Forestry Council. And I just want to, say welcome to all of you. We're really glad that you're here, and also to echo his sentiments on congratulating you for your accomplishments this past year as Tree City, Tree Line, and Tree Campus communities. I know, as Mark had mentioned, things look a little bit different this year than they did last year, but while we're looking forward to hopefully meeting again in person next year, we are very grateful that we're able to connect with you virtually through this event and still be able to celebrate Arbor Week and kick off a great season of all of these plantings and different things you might have planned. So initially, I would like to thank Peoples Electric for their generous sponsorship of this year's Arbor Week celebration. And thank you also to DAVEY Tree Surgery, who has generously provided a powder keg caddo maple for the tree planting ceremony, and that we'll see a little bit later on here in the program. Thank you also to Oklahoma Forestry Services and the board members and executive secretary from the council that worked on planning and preparing this event. And of course, a big thank you to Up with Trees for their behind the scenes work and getting this set up and facilitating this virtual meeting. So before we get into our first speaker, we have some great presentations today. Let's hear what some of you have to say about being a Tree City, Tree Line, or Tree Campus community.
City of Bartlesville, and we've been Tree City for 38 years now. I've been asked if we've made a difference, and I think so. People may not know about Tree City or Tree Committee, but they see what's been done. They see all the trees in the parks, and yeah, we've made a difference. I've been here for all 38 celebrations. I hope to be here for the 40th. I hope to be here for the 50th, and I'll be here for the 60th. 70th anniversary, I'll be 100 years old. But if Mark Bays will come help plant the tree, I'll be there to help celebrate. See you around.
Many years ago, when I was a part of it, we had a program called Tomorrow's Edmond, and citizens and city leaders got together and we wanted to look at what our future would be. And one of the things we wanted to do was create an urban forestry commission and an urban forestry department. And the Tree City USA was a good foundation project for us. And so we started the Tree City USA as our beginning project, and it really helped us get things going. It makes me extremely proud because I've been on the Urban Forestry Commission since almost its beginning, and to watch where we've gone from 2 employees in the department and a small commission to where we are now, to have a whole department where we really focus on trees. And the Tree City USA is kind of our foundation. It's the first thing we did, and we're continuing it, and we just want to keep growing. I think it brings a lot of civic pride. When I moved to Edmond with my parents in '74, we came to Edmond for the trees and the rolling hills. And I think a lot of Edmondites come for the trees. The trees add so much value, not only economically, but enhance the beauty. Trees just give you life, make you feel happy. So continuing to be a part of Tree City USA, it enhances our community. It just gives us a pride in that we are not only preserving and protecting the trees, we're educating our community about the trees, and we're planting more trees. So it's a huge part of what we do in urban forestry.
Edmond Electric is passionate about the City of Edmond's tree canopy, as well as overall safe, reliable electric service. By taking specific measures outlined by the Arbor Day Foundation and Treeline USA, Edmond Electric has built robust programs to protect and enhance our urban forests and maintain our overhead and underground power lines. Because of these measures, we maintain a 99.99% reliability rating and have significantly added to our overall tree canopy. Being certified as a Treeline USA utility for the last 21 years demonstrates that Edmond Electric and trees can coexist for the benefit of our community and our citizens. We are extremely lucky to have residents that are just as passionate about trees that we are. We are grateful that Edmond residents are willing to single-handedly make an impact to Edmond's canopy and energy reduction efforts. By partnering with the Arbor Day Foundation's Energy Saving Trees program since 2015, we have generated a newfound love for trees and all of their benefits. To date, through that program, Edmond Electric has given out more than 1,300 free trees to Edmond residents. By doing this, we have the opportunity to communicate and educate the importance of right tree, right place with our residents. We look forward to continuing the tradition of being certified as a Treeline USA utility.
So on behalf of the entire Urban Forestry Council of the state of Oklahoma, we just want to say congratulations to all the Tree City USA communities throughout our state. All of those that met the requirements as put forth by Arbor Day are reflected here. And we just want to say thank you for all the work that you do year in, year out, the programs that you put forth and the work that you do within your community to make these things possible, to make your communities more resilient and just better places to live. I've asked, yep.
I might add to that too, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Of all years to receive a growth award, the city of Bixby, that's an amazing accomplishment during this time when everybody was shut down and all these other things. So congratulations to Bixby on the growth award. And I also want to just take a quick notice too, is that we have some spies from Altus Air Force Base here. They are hoping to become re-energized with becoming a Tree City USA. So we've got some long-standing people from 40 years down to some folks that are interested. So as Steve says, thank you guys so much for all that you do throughout the whole year, and we look forward to continuing working with you. Thanks, Steve.
Perfect. So one of the things that I've been asked to do is a little bit of webinar housekeeping. I know that Mark mentioned the chat function, raise your hand in Q&A. You'll see these kind of at the bottom. We'll zoom in a little bit, and the chat is there. I see a lot of you utilizing that. It's, you know, to ask how's the weather, you know, what's your favorite tree, does Mark Bays ever age, anything like that. Raise your hand if you're having an issue. We'll try to deal with that as the panelists behind the scene. And then the Q&A is really what we will be utilizing to take those questions to the panelists after their presentations. If you were to click on that, it'll pop up a second box where you can type your questions here. And if you want to send them anonymously, you can check that there and hit send. So we hope you will certainly have some questions. We have two great speakers for us, and it's my privilege to be able to introduce Gretchen Riley, the partnership coordinator for Texas A&M Forest Service, who'll be talking to us about healthy trees, healthy lives. So Gretchen, you can start sharing your screen and we will go from there.
All right. I think I got myself set up now, and I do want to say I was happy to be here beforehand and pleased to be part of this, but I'm delighted now. This is fun. If this is this much fun virtually, next year I'm coming in person, and I'm not waiting until Chuck is 100 years old or something like that. So anyway, Mark asked me to talk about healthy trees, healthy lives, what it is and what we are doing. And when I say we, I mean the US, because This concept has really caught on nationally with people who care for trees, care about trees, and are also involved in the healthcare industry. So let me spend a couple of minutes putting healthy trees, healthy lives into context. When we talk about health these days, you might be thinking COVID, but for the last decade or so, human health issues have been rising. Worldwide in 2019, non-communicable or chronic diseases were collectively responsible for over 70% of all deaths. That's 41 million people. And of those 41 million people, 18 million people died from cardiovascular disease and 4 million from respiratory disease. And I call those out because we're going to highlight some of those benefits from trees associated to those two chronic diseases. But currently, 1 in 2 adults have such a chronic disease, and 25% or 1 in 4 have 2 or more. Now, the rise of these diseases has been driven by major risk factors, which also exacerbate mental health issues. 20% of adult Americans experience mental illness, with 1 in 20 being severe. And all of this is pre-COVID-19, so you know the numbers for 2020 are substantially higher. But let's take a minute to tie in COVID. The chance of dying from COVID is greatly increased with existing conditions, or what we term comorbidity. In fact, a recent analysis showed that 94% of all COVID deaths had some form of comorbidity. In particular, strong associations have been reported between cardiovascular disease, chronic respiratory disease, and death rates from COVID. One study from Harvard found that an increase of only 1 microgram per cubic meter in air pollution is associated with an 8% increase in the COVID death rate. This suggests someone who lives in an area with high levels of fine particulate pollution is significantly more likely to die from COVID than someone who lives in a region with just 1 unit of pollution less. Now, COVID's too new to allow extensive information on associations between nature exposure or presence of trees and mortality from COVID. We do know that trees remove fine particulate pollution from the air. Well, you can see where I'm going with this. Knowing that trees filter the air, removing particulate matter, then logically, or at least intuitively, we can understand this influences respiratory illness significantly, and to some extent cardiovascular disease as well. But trees do even more than that. There's a growing body of research that shows that the presence of trees impact human health in 3 major areas: obesity, chronic disease, and mental health. Every year or few years or so, the big players in public health all list their top health issues. And while their lists vary somewhat, they all agree on several, including these 3, which are very real, very significant issues that have also been shown to be correlated to access or exposure to trees in natural areas. They improve with greater access or exposure. The more access to trees, the less chronic disease, the less obesity, and the better mental health. Now, it's interesting because some research is specifically about trees and some is about nature. However, when you dive into the literature, even most of those that use the term nature to title their research have trees as a framework for their places of nature. Regardless, trees and people are connected. Now, we don't have time today to dive deeply into the research, but I wanted to give you some highlights of just how connected people are to trees. Higher tree cover is associated with healthier birth weights. More street trees reduce the risk of childhood obesity. Views of trees from hospitals reduce recovery time and amount of pain medication. Dementia patients with access to treed wander gardens see reduced falls and medications. Employees with views of trees from their desks take fewer sick days. People living among treescapes are more active, less likely to be overweight, and even have reduced risk of heart disease. And people spending time in natural woodlands report improved mental health metrics. Now, that was a super quick flyby. So the next 2 slides cover much of what I said, but they're here in black and white because this is being recorded and you'll have a chance to come back and reference these. But also because I really want to hit home how critical treescapes are in the public health equation. In fact, that last bullet on the current slide is very interesting. Loss of trees associated with EAB is associated with an increase in cardiovascular disease. Trees provide real health benefits. Now, before we go any further, it's important to consider the micro-macro continuum of nature exposure. One place on the scale isn't necessarily better than the other. It's only more applicable for certain situations or populations. For example, a view of trees outside a hospital or care facility is critical for immobilized patients or residents. It may be the only nature connection they have. A 5-day nature retreat is impractical for a recovering stroke patient, but might be just what you and I need after last month, preferably somewhere warm. Now, interestingly, highly diverse treescapes appear to have a greater health impact at any point on the continuum compared to treescapes with little species diversity. Now, we already know that species diversity is important for urban forest health. So I suppose it isn't too surprising that it's also important for the entire ecosystem health, including the two-legged mammals, humans. Now, the goal of Healthy Trees, Healthy Lives, this is an initiative, but the goal of it is to increase collective understanding about the connection between trees and human health, and to transform the landscape to reflect that connection. So what are we doing to further these goals? Well, outreach, outreach, outreach. We formed a national working group of state and federal coordinators all across the country that get together regularly and discuss who are non-traditional audiences, what kind of assets and resources do we need in order to reach them. We've launched healthytreeshealthylives.org, a website devoted specifically to this concept. We flood social media with #HealthyTreesHealthyLives. We take every opportunity to talk at conferences, particularly conferences where they may not already recognize the benefit of trees. And we leverage traditional partner networks such as the U.S. Endowment for Forestry and Communities and Forest Proud. We've also developed a geospatial analysis model to identify places in communities where planting trees optimizes public health impacts. This allows us to focus on great places to promote a nature explore garden at hospitals and clinics, or wander gardens. For example, we have a partnership with a memory care facility in Spring, Texas, where they're putting in a wander garden. Nature Explore classroom at hospitals are happening in the Midwest and in Florida. We serve on the Southwest Medical District Streetscape Transformation Project Advisory Group. It's made of 60 individuals in 4 different industries and from across the country. And we meet regularly to help guide that project as well. We're engaging with non-traditional partners. We've got resources on the leader portal for Walk with the Doc chapter. If you're not familiar with Walk with the Doc, that's a national organization that physicians and mental care practitioners across the country can have their own chapter where they meet at a park or a green space to have a mile-long walk with anybody who shows up, but they spend the first 15 minutes talking about health tips, and we've provided some content for that. We also have provided educational content for Mental Health America's Mind Your Garden events. And while Vibrant Cities Lab isn't truly a non-traditional partner, we're leveraging their network to get the message out. So what can you do to help further this effort as well and help meet those goals? Well, outreach, outreach, outreach. And you can help guide tree planting efforts. You're on the ground already. And let's talk about non-traditional partners. Federally qualified healthcare centers are great candidates for healing gardens as they are often eligible recipients for grant funding. And there's a list for them online if you just Google that. County public health departments and many hospitals are required to do a community health needs assessment and a community health plan every few years. They do one and they ought to update it. They're looking for nature-based solutions. We need to be at the table. There are many corporations that have a strong green or social responsibility culture, and they may want to sponsor a garden or a tree planting project specifically to assist public health. Other parallel organizations may as well, such as Rails to Trails or RV America. I should have started the non-traditional partners slide with Southwest Airlines, because really when it comes to non-traditional partners, the sky's the limit today. Everyone's interested in public health and in social equity, and trees really provide a lot of the answers. Now I have these photos here because at one time they were considered not important or a luxury, but they're now considered a necessity. Several hundred years ago, doctors didn't wash hands before surgery. Most of the cities we live in today were initially settled without sewer systems. And when I got my driver's license, there were no seatbelt laws in my state. Now we wouldn't dream of subjecting our loved ones to these conditions today. Well, in the same way, we have a fundamental right as human beings to have community forests managed in a way that optimizes public health. Trees matter. Remember, healthy trees contribute to healthy lives. We want to ensure that the right tree goes in the right place so that it is a healthy tree and can positively impact our human health. And then as we address community management and planning, it's important to plan for trees to at best enhance the canopy and services provided, but at minimum to have no net loss of canopy or diversity in places where it has the most public health impact, particularly in vulnerable populations such as the poor, infirm, or the elderly. Go to healthytreeshealthylives.org, find out more information. There should be some resources for you there as well. Thank you.
Gretchen, thank you so very much for that presentation. It was absolutely wonderful, and just solidifies what many of us already believe, and just points out one of the many facets that trees contribute to our community. Here at Up With Trees, we out that we plant trees for their environmental, economic, and social benefits, and this and all the research supports that. So again, thank you so very much. And then additionally, we're gonna move on and hear more of what you have to say of why you are part of Tree City, Tree Line, or Tree Campus USA.
I'm Tim Vermillion, City Forester, City of Norman, Oklahoma. I've been asked to answer some questions about Tree City USA, why we participate in it, how does it make us feel, and what sort of civic pride does it bring, or how has it changed the community over the years? Well, I'd say we do it because why ever stop once you start? We have a long legacy here in Norman of tree planting, starting with David Ross Boyd, the first president of OU. He was obsessed with tree planting. I think he realized how hot it would be without trees, and there's still a lot of trees in here that I think he had something to do with. Many times the story goes that he was out on the street watering trees or knocking on people's doors telling them to water their trees instead of being over at the campus. So we try to carry on that legacy by planting trees and caring for trees best we can. How does it make us feel carrying on this 22-year tradition? Well, it helps carry on his legacy, and there's nothing better than driving by seeing trees you planted years ago. That's why we do it. And the pride it brings the community, many people tell me their fondest memories of parking their car west of campus and then walking through all those tree-lined streets to get to the stadium for a game. So it has a lot of memories in people's minds, our tree-lined streets here. And so it does bring us pride, and it has changed our organization community over the years. Our funding's going up little by little, getting more trees planted, and so it's all part of keeping trees in the spotlight, and that's why we are members of Tree City USA. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Sanford, and I am the director of the City of Paws Valley's Parks and Recreation Department. And I've been asked to talk a little bit about Tree City USA in our community, and we will be celebrating 40 years of Tree City USA. So to begin with, in 1981, there were some members of the Park and Tree Board who were instrumental in working with the State Forestry Department staff to do some Dutch elm disease assessment. They did some tree inventory, and they were doing that in an effort to figure out how we could move our community forward in tree health because of the Dutch elm disease. So that's how it got started, the partnership with the Forestry Department. And it continues, that partnership continues today. We have done lots of different things with the department, and they always provide us great input and guidance when we come to them with questions. I was asked how it makes me feel to be able to carry on this 40-year tradition, and I would say humbling, and it's an honor. I'm from Paws Valley, and I was a child 40 years ago in this community when they started doing this. And as I sit here today in my office and look out into the park, I see trees that were planted 40 years ago that are continuing to benefit our park and our community. And so all of those efforts over the last 40 years continue to bless our community. We have partnered with the Forestry Department, like I said, and then also OSU Extension. We've done all kinds of different workshops and pruning and drought care and tree planting, and we've done tree contests and poster contests and coloring contests. And all of that, what that does is it keeps tree care and tree knowledge on a continual basis in our newspapers and in our citizens' minds. And it proves that we're committed to trees in Paws Valley. That increases civic pride when it comes to trees. There's just countless citizens who have planted trees and volunteered and given money and planted more trees and pruned trees and cleaned up storm debris, and we've banded together to do things to benefit our community. And we love our trees, we love our Wacker Park, and we love our tree-lined streets. And I feel like Tree City USA has been the backbone of that legacy for the last 40 years in Paws Valley.
All right, so in moving on, we certainly want to congratulate and thank all of our Tree Line USA utilities throughout the state of Oklahoma. AEP, PSO, Edmond Electric, OG&E, Oklahoma Electric Cooperative, and People's Electric. All of us over the last few weeks have certainly felt what it's like to make sure that we have reliable energy. And so to work with these utilities to make sure that trees are planted, but trees are planted properly and in the right place, to maximize those benefits within our communities, but also to make sure that we have consistent electric services. So thank you and congratulations to all the Tree Line USAs. Now it is my privilege to introduce Joe Lanin. He is the Forest Utilization and Marketing Specialist for the Virginia Department of Forestry. and he's going to be talking to us about how to launch urban wood programs to utilize the benefits of those trees even after they have lived their lives. So Joe, take it away.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be with you all today. My name is Joe Lanin with the Virginia Department of Forestry, as you just heard, and I work in the Forest Utilization and Marketing Division of the Department of Forestry. And I also coordinate the Virginia Urban Wood Program for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the work we've been doing in Virginia and across the Southeast, helping communities and universities launch urban wood programs. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to talk about a couple different communities of different sizes, just to kind of give you a compare and contrast. Harrisonburg, Virginia is about 55,000 people, home of a couple different universities, including James Madison University, in case you've never heard of that. It's a very vibrant city. It has probably one of the best urban wood programs in the Commonwealth. And we've been cooperating them, I would say probably about 2.5 years now with their urban wood program. Really great folks to work with. I heard Mark Bays talk about some kind of snowmageddon and ice-mageddon. Well, in Harrisonburg, they had Ashmageddon. About 14% of the urban forest in their community was ash. And that means that over the period from 2020 to 2021, they're having to remove 700 ash trees. Now, granted, not all those ash trees are as big as the one you see in the picture here, but even so, that's a lot of material. And so consequently, you know, they are really tasked with just a huge job to try to move this material and to do something with it. To kind of reflect a little bit when you think about it, and this is your nugget of knowledge for the day, nationwide, there's about 130 million acres of urban forests, and more wood is removed from our urban areas than from all the national forests combined across the United States. And may be really hard to believe, but it's true when you think about it. And of course, this is not just due to mortality of street trees. This is due to everything from clearing for new developments and subdivisions and everything else that might remove trees from our urban landscape. So Harrisonburg pondered, okay, so what are they going to do with all that ash? Well, you know, they're going to try to use it. They didn't want to just chip it up, and they didn't want to chunk it all into firewood. So they started by making this very first conference table, which was donated to the Downtown Renaissance community of Harrisonburg, where they have their meetings to try to revitalize the downtown area. It was made by a local crafter. Obviously, they do a combination of live edge and also a finished edge. Really beautiful table. They decided to do another one. This actually went to their Parks and Rec department. It's a little bit different design, not quite as thick. What's really cool about this table, you see those two lines in the middle. That's actually the trunk of the tree that was scribed by the maker of the table. So that's what the tree looked like when it stood, and he incorporated that into the design of the conference table. Well, you know, they can't keep making conference tables. So, you know, now what? What are they going to do with all of this material? One of the ideas that they had was a log sales program. They thought, well, that would be a great way to maybe market this to a local mill, keep it within the community, and it would be a wonderful way to use the resource, again, without chipping it up or cutting it into firewood chunks and burning it in a wood stove. The one thing about urban wood that you'll find out if you ever deal with it is that most any log is sellable. Even that one right there in the middle, as we say, looks a little gnarly. Even though it is kind of gnarly, Harrisonburg has developed a relationship with one crafter in the area, and he wants all of them that they want to put on for sale. So, you know, even a tree or a section of a tree that looks like this, you know, does have value to some people, and that's very important to remember. Until, as it says up there, the dramatic music plays. The folks in City Hall get involved. And of course, the reason is that is where the folks in administration live, otherwise affectionately known as the bean counters of the city, and the people who are worried about litigation and everything related to that, so to speak. So Harrisburg, again, you know, they set out wanting to have some sort of a log sales program, but the folks in City Hall kind of stepped in, not too hard. It wasn't like a big stomping, but it was interjection as to the process, and we all get that. And we'll talk more about process here in a little bit. It's kind of interesting when you're looking at these EAB killed ash trees or any tree that dies, how, you know, a dead tree standing is a liability, but then all of a sudden in log form, it's an asset. And liabilities are handled different than assets. And again, that's a function of, you know, the system. And just to be able to manipulate and work with that is really the true success of the program, to be able to move it forward and realize, you know, okay, so these are assets, you know, we need to go about this in the proper way. And so what Harrisonburg came up with for the workaround was to auction these logs on public surplus. Now, the one they use, and there's many different sites, this is publicsurplus.com. This is where municipalities sell like their old dump trucks, their old chainsaws, their old lawnmowers that don't, you know, work anymore. So they thought, well, why can't we sell logs on there? And so they did. And it's worked out really well for them. Okay, compared to this, the community of Woodstock, Virginia, which is, by the way, my hometown in Virginia. It's way up in the northwest part of the state, near the West Virginia line. It's about 1/10 the size of Harrisonburg, about 5,500 people. In Woodstock, there is no Ashmageddon. Only 1% of the urban forest is ash. They may take down 2 ash trees per year and maybe 5 trees total. So their urban wood program is significantly different than what is going on in Harrisonburg. There are minimal layers in Woodstock. You know, they're a pretty laid back bunch. And so consequently, whatever the person wants to do in the urban wood program, they're kind of like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's go ahead and do it. Some of the trees are used for town projects like these high bar tables that you see. And then others are bartered for commodity. That picture on the right, now that's an interesting story in itself. That's actually a box elder that a crafter made, just an incredible and really interesting conference table out of that. It's not a great picture. I wish it was a better picture, but it has some beautiful red spalting in it, which adds to the unique grain and color of the wood. And that's another point of urban wood. You know, don't necessarily think it has to be an oak, a poplar, or a pine. A lot of different species go into the urban wood market that people crave for because they like the unique color and unique grains. Switching gears a little bit, for about the past year, we've been working with the University of Virginia, who has wanted to develop their own urban wood program. And this is really interesting because, you know, these are trees that come off the campus of the University of Virginia. University of Virginia is not the forestry school in Virginia. That's Virginia Tech. University of Virginia, I guess, would be compared to OU for you folks. I guess Oklahoma State is your forestry school. But UVA, this all started with their architecture school. The architecture school saw an opportunity to use some of the trees that are coming off the campus. And so they approached me about, you know, starting an urban wood program, and I've kind of shepherded them along the way. They built their own solar kiln that you see here. They're about to apply for a grant for another solar kiln so that they can dry their lumber. The really cool part is that, you know, they did a lot of the groundwork themselves. The collaboration between the departments of School of Architecture and the grounds department, the folks that helped to run the urban wood program, The goal for them is to use most of the wood internally on campus. They're in the process of developing a business model, and they're also hoping that urban wood, or the processing of wood, can become a future course within the School of Architecture. If you want to check out their website, it's up there at the top. It's www.uvasawmilling.com. And they've developed a great little website, and they're in the process of adding to that as we speak. More than anything, when it comes to developing an urban wood program, be it in a municipality or on a campus, is bringing all the pieces together. Think of it like a puzzle. Unless you start putting the puzzle together, all the pieces are sitting in the four corners and they're not doing anything. But when you can bring them together and get them talking to each other and cooperating, then you start to have something, and then you start to develop a program. So the takeaways of the tale of two cities, so to speak, is that when it comes to municipalities and universities, size matters. And what I mean is, the larger the municipality or the larger the university, the more administration you have and the more layers and the more hoops you have to go through. And also the number of tree removals, like we saw, Harrisonburg was faced with 700 tree removals over the past 2 years. Woodstock probably has 5 trees a year. Within these communities or within this university, there's got to be an urban wood program champion. Joe Lanin can't be the cheerleader in every community and every university in Virginia. There's just no way. It's logistically and impossible. So you've got to have a local urban wood champion in order for it to make it work. So how do you sell a program? Well, sometimes it's urban wood by department. With some of the larger municipalities, you got to work with the department that wants to dance with you. It could be the park department. It could be the street department. It could be the urban forestry department. You want to try to explain to them that doing this is going to expand their sustainability program, that you want to try to help them get to a zero net waste, which is something that's really unique because every leaf, every twig, everything that comes off of that tree over the life of the tree is somehow used and put back within the ecosystem of the urban forest. You want to mention that you want to try to help improve their green portfolio, and that you are helping to develop the full circle management of the urban forest resource. When we're talking full circle management, what we're talking about is that urban wood is just as much as part of the management of the urban forest as is tree establishment and tree care. That the care and the management of the resource does not stop at the biological end of life for the tree, that it can continue and then it can pour right back into the system. One of the most important things that you want to try to remember is, when you have your resource, don't ever call it wood waste or woody debris. It's an urban forest natural resource. You want to give it value, some kind of value, so that in the people's minds, they're not looking at trash, they're not looking at brush, they're not looking at something you want to throw away. They want to look at something that's very usable. Champions sell their program. It could be an urban wood webpage like UVA and Harrisonburg has developed. Harrisonburg also uses a lot of ArcGIS storyboards, promoting their own urban wood auctions. Making media friends is really huge. The big thing, don't wait for someone to do it for you. Get out there and do it. And I know the folks with the urban forest councils, the state forestry agencies, the U.S. Forest Service, the Urban Wood Network, we're all here to help you. And, we'd be more than glad to be able to consult with you and develop an urban wood program, wherever it may be. Kind of wrapping this up, what we found that works really well in Virginia, we have what we call the Urban Forest Management Triangle. And it's a flow of resources and knowledge between these three groups. Laura and Molly and UNCF, me and Urban Wood, the folks down at Forest Health. There's so much synergy, so much cooperation between these groups, we're able to get a lot done. And that, of course, is really the key to the success. As always, we want to thank the U.S. Forest Service, who helps to fund this program through a laser grant program. And lastly, but leastly, there's my contact info. Since this is a recorded webinar that'll be available if you all want to reach out to me at a different time with questions. And our website, vaurbanwood.org, is there for your viewing. That is it. I hope that didn't go over too much beyond 15 minutes for you, Mark.
Joe,
Perfect, Joe. Thanks a lot.
Joe, that was perfect. Very much appreciate your input on that. And as Mark mentioned in the chat, Oklahoma is working towards some of those things, and we look forward to helping that any way we can as a state forestry council. All right, moving along.
And Riley just put, Joe mentioned working with, sawmills and that sort of thing. And Riley just put a link to our sawmill map. And so if you're removing trees off of your property, whether it's public property, go to that link and you look for a sawmill close to you, because there may be one of those folks that might have an interest in whatever those logs are that you're taking down. So thanks for that link and that share, Riley.
Awesome. All right, we have one more set of videos talking to communities about why they are part of these programs.
It's a huge honor for us in Tulsa for 28 straight years to be recognized as a tree city. You know, when I first brought my wife home to Tulsa and was trying to convince her that this is the place where we should live and raise our kids, she was from Western Oklahoma, and what stood out to her were all the trees that we have here and what a green city it is, and all the great programs we have here in Tulsa to promote the planting of trees. And I also think it says a lot about the kind of city that we have, that you always have people who are thinking about building a better city for future generations, and a big part of that is planting and tending for our trees right now so that future generations can benefit from them. Well, it brings a great deal of civic pride for us because it's a recognition of the dedication that Tulsans have towards making this a city that is always building for future generations, always thinking about how we can preserve our natural environment and enjoy it and make it something that future generations can enjoy.
Why is it important?
It's very important for us to continue to participate in this, to continue the progress that now generations of Tulsans have put into improving our natural environment, tending to the trees that are here in Tulsa, and continuing to plant more so that we're always making this a better and better city for future generations.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Gibson, University Arborist at Oklahoma State University. We've participated in the program because Tree Campus for Higher Education's ideals about tree care and community involvement align closely with ours. We're proud to carry on the 22-year tradition, especially since we've participated for 9 years running. We're also proud to be displaying our Tree Campus for Higher Education flag in our new Cowboy Family Tree Garden, where we recognize donors who contribute specifically to campus tree care. One way Tree Campus for Higher Education has changed our campus is through the Service Learning Project. When we invite students to be involved in campus tree care, some of our pride and agency is transferred to them, allowing them to play a role in the legacy of our campus forests.
I'm Donna Nolan with the Tinker Air Force Base Natural Resources Department. Our participation in Tree City USA started in 1993 when former Air Force Chief of Staff General Merrill McPeak urged Air Force-wide participation in Tree City USA in response to the America the Beautiful program, which sought to plant 1 billion trees annually nationwide. The Air Force goal today is the same as it was then: environmental and warfighter resiliency. We all know that trees contribute to environmental resiliency. They mitigate pollution, combat urban heat islands, and sequester carbon. But Tinker's commitment takes it further. When trees must be removed, their value isn't lost to our mounting landfills, but instead reclaimed through our urban forest products program. Trees are salvaged as timber, firewood, mulch, and habitat such as pond structure for fish and wildlife, with revenues returned to our forestry program. Trees also contribute to the resiliency of our airmen. Squadrons host fitness runs and calisthenics, which start under 100-year-old bur oaks. During the COVID pandemic, use of our forested trails surged. Recently, one commander had his unit plant 85 trees with the express intent of providing a welcoming home environment, a place of respite and recuperation for his warriors coming home from the austere deserts overseas. For 28 years, the Tree City USA program has walked arm in arm with Tinker, helping it develop a resilient environment and a resilient community. So next time you visit Tinker, we invite you to stop and see our forest for the trees.
And the last group of entities that we want to congratulate are certainly all our colleges and universities that are part of the Tree Campus USA program. And you see those reflected here: Cameron University, Oklahoma State University, who we heard from in that video, Northeastern State University at the Tahlequah campus, the Tulsa Community College campuses, the Northeast, the Southeast, the West, and the Metro campuses, and then Oklahoma City Community College. So congratulations to all of you. And we're going to segue into what would Arbor Day be without a tree planting? Since we can't be together, we're going to have a virtual one, and Mark's going to take that over right now.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. It's like, that's a big part of what we do. You might want to mute your things. There you go. Yeah, get off my screen. Come on, guy. But yeah, we can't not plant trees during today. And that's, to me, right, that was the most difficult thing for today. Although in Oklahoma City, it's kind of misting, cold, and rain. We've done that before, and we've had beautiful days. But we still wanted to include that. You can't plant a tree virtually. It's just not going to give us any benefit. So what we decided to do, and the Urban Forestry Council did, is we decided to recognize Pauls Valley because they've been at this longer than anybody in the state. You know, we were down there on Monday, and it was a beautiful day with Jennifer and everybody. And the question I posed is, do you remember what you were doing in 1981? And I was in college back then, but they were initiating this program, and it was such an honor to be there, because little did I know in my career path would take me to where I could be there helping them celebrate their 40th year as a Tree City USA. What was really cool about that day is we met some of the original board members that were there that started all the project and everything, and hearing what they were doing, hearing about the trees that they were planting, that was really inspirational. And we did plant a native tree down there, a Caddo sugar maple, and it's the powder keg cultivar of that Dr. Carl Whitcomb really supported. So we had a number of other leadership there. Our state forester was there, Mark Goller. The assistant state forester, Scott Huff, was there. We also had Riley there. So it just really shows that long level of support that we've had. Matter of fact, the original community forester that was with Oklahoma Forestry Services, or the Division of Forestry, also was there that day, that partnered with them. So it was really good to see Bob down there with that. So anyway, let's just take a look at what we did just this past Monday in Pauls Valley.
Arbor Week is something that we've been celebrating in Oklahoma since before statehood. Actually, in 1903, the territorial legislature first enacted a special day to go out and celebrate trees. So we've been celebrating trees in Oklahoma long before we've been a state. And then we decided in the 80s that one day wasn't enough. And so then that's why every year in Oklahoma, we celebrate Arbor Week. And that's the last full week in March. And we're celebrating what Pauls Valley has done for the past 40 years. And this is your 40th year being recognized in the City USA. And that's quite the accomplishment, because you are the very first city in Oklahoma that has this designation. So I want to clap, because that is an amazing accomplishment. That's the first thing. And I know that there's a lot of people that have played a big part in that. So I really want to thank Jennifer, because I've been working with her for most of my career.
Margie Little was on the Park and Tree Board 40 years ago and worked with Bob and Linda A.G. and several others who paved the way. They did a lot of work in Wacker Park. They planted a lot of trees in Wacker Park. So I'm going to let Margie say a few words about 40 years ago and Park and Tree Board then.
My memory's not that great. 40 years ago, Pauls Valley's always been known for our beautiful trees. And when we were contacted by the Forestry Department and started talking about adding trees back to our city, it was really an exciting time. And I remember planting all these trees and some of the others over there in the park. And one of the other things we did was kind of take a tree census. Drove around and marked about what variety and kind of what shape they were. But anyway, that's some of my great memories, and my kids could probably tell you I drug them around planting trees too.
Well, I can't do what I do, and we can't provide the level of service without the leadership of the state forester. And I'd like to introduce Mark Goller. He is the current state forester for Oklahoma. He hasn't been with us 40 years, but almost 40 years, right?
Close, 37.
Oh, that's really close. Anyway, just Mark Goller.
Thank you. You know, it takes drive. It takes smart work. It takes leadership like you guys have provided to get to this point all these years later. And you kind of stole my thunder. I was thinking, is I challenge you guys 40 years beyond in 2061 that some other young fledgling forester and state forester will be standing down here celebrating the 80th accomplishment or the 100th year accomplishment. So keep it up, keep up the good work. You guys are a model for all the communities in the state, and I just thank you for what you guys have done and what you have done for Tree City USA and also for urban forestry in Oklahoma. So thank you.
Well, you can't not celebrate Arbor Week without planting a tree, and that's what we're here to do today. And this is a native tree of Oklahoma. It's a caddo sugar maple, and it's called a powder keg. It's actually a cultivar. And if you look down here, you can see where it's kind of connected down here to a different root stock. So this is a cultivar that Dr. Carl Whitcomb from OSU kind of introduced into the industry and everything. And so now it's been in here a while, and it's really one that it's going to show with consistent color every year, and it's going to provide great beauty. And so if the theme is the next 40 years, it's quite possible that this tree could be around the next 40 years when they start celebrating. So anyway, let's get out and get the shovel, and we're not going to do all the work. We'll get it started, but everybody here has to come up eventually and take some of the soil and throw around to the tree. So,
Just kidding, I went one too far. But to close us out today, Lee Martin and Riley Coy are going to talk about some of the resources and goodies for all of you, for all of your hard work in being recognized in all of the programs that we've talked about today. So Lee and Riley.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, so we know that with things being a little bit different this year, a lot of people are likely trying to avoid public gatherings. And so we, normally you'll go home from the lunch event with a bag of goodies, and Riley's going to talk about some things here in a little bit, but I wanted to show you some resources that will be available on the council's website. You can find the website at okcfc.org. And down here, we have a couple of links. So if you've been around for a few years, you may remember a few years ago, one of the things that was in your goodie bag was kind of a packet of tree tags. They're able to hang on trees around town. So it's a great way to engage the community. And whenever people are outside in a park and they can just walk by and see and read some of these benefits that trees are providing and ways that they're enhancing the community. So those files, thanks to Mark and Oklahoma Forestry Services, have been made available as a PDF that you can download. So the link is up here on our site. This is a picture of what they look like, just to jog your memory about that. You may remember that one of those tags, and I'll open them so you can kind of see them here. One of those has a spot where you can fill in a value for an individual tree. And there's a link to a tree benefit calculator here as well that you can use in calculating that amount. So you're able to determine what the monetary value is, the energy saving benefits and other benefits that it's providing, and then put that specific amount on a tree, which is a very impactful way to promote that. We also have a link to the Healthy Trees, Healthy Lives website that Gretchen had shared about earlier. And in addition, there is a link here to Southern Group of Forest Service that has some links to social media graphics that can be used to share on your social media pages to help kind of promote some of these benefits as well. Just trying to get one open here that you can look at. Yes, so different types of benefits available on those. Also, I'd encourage you, if you haven't already connected with the council on Facebook, go to our page and like us. If you're sharing about any activities that you have going on, please, feel free to tag us, and we'll try to share those if you want to, share the great things that you're doing and the ways you're connecting with your community. So, with that, I will let Riley take over and talk about the other things that are available.
All right. Thanks, everybody. So as many of you remember, in years past, we usually give some sort of swag away in those goodie bags. And so those of you that have met the requirements for Tree City, Tree Line, or Tree Campus this year will also be getting this book by Alex Shigo called Tree Pruning, a Worldwide Photo Guide. And I assume most of you know that Alex Shigo sort of, I guess, literally wrote the book on tree physiology and tree pruning. Compartmentalization of decay in trees. Anyway, it's a great resource for every community to have. So we're going to be shipping that out to those of you that have met the requirements for 2021. Again, we want to thank everybody who's participated in this, and we hope to get everything out to you as soon as possible. And I'll turn it back over to Steve or Mark for closing remarks.
Well, I guess that'd be me and my friend here. So we are going to be sending the material out to everybody, and we'll be handing some of it out. We really want to take this opportunity. Again, thank you all so much. We want to thank People's Electric. We want to thank Davey Tree for the tree and everything. But more so than that, we really want to thank you all for all that you do, particularly this past year. It was just so difficult for so many different reasons and everything. And but thanks to you, we can be assured that we will always have, these safe places to go, no matter what gets thrown at it. I've been saying for the whole last year, go out and visit nature. It's the safest place to be. And that's your legacy that you're working on right now. You're going to continue with that legacy to make sure that there's always be safe places for us to go and visit to. So thank you again. Thank you for taking some time and being with us. Our hopes, and we're crossing our fingers and everything else, is that next year we will be able to get back together in person and treat you just the way that we think you are, and that's the green royalty of the state. So thanks a lot, everybody. Now, Riley was supposed to be monitoring some of the chat and the questions before we actually sign off. Riley, I'll ask you, was there anything that there was any potential question or anything that we had come up in particular for our speakers?
I didn't see any burning questions, but if anybody does have any questions, they're welcome to email the presenters. You can email me. I think most everybody on here has my email or Mark's email, and we'll be happy to reach out to them for you. Or if you want to discuss urban here in the state of Oklahoma with your community, give me a call, give me an email, and we'd be happy to try to connect people together and start putting some of those puzzle pieces together with you.
Thanks a lot. Lee, do you have any last words of wisdom from being the chair of the Urban Forestry Council? You're on mute.
Thanks, Mark. I thought I did that. Thank you everyone for being here. We are really glad that you're able to join on the webinar, and we will look forward to next year and hopefully this fall with the conference as well.
Good point. Thanks a lot. Thank you all. We appreciate it. We are a little over our hour, but hopefully you found it beneficial and useful. So thanks again for all that you do for Oklahoma.